With Mortal Kombat 1 on the horizon, featuring Liu Kang as the central character this time around, I thought to myself, why don't I make an Elden Ring cosplay run for Liu Kang? He's cool and a lot of his special moves can be replicated in Elden Ring. Well, for the most part. The feature that defines Liu Kang is his mastery of martial arts, and Elden Ring doesn't really have a whole lot of weapons with these fancy moves that he does in the games. After thinking for a short while about the possible solution, I stumbled across this page on the Nexus Mods website, which had the perfect solution. One of the things that this mod incorporates is a fully reimagined moveset for the Kestis Fist weapons, with more of the moves that Liu Kang would use, so it was a no-brainer for me to use this mod. So the rules for this run were, I needed to beat all the Shotbearer bosses, I could only heal once a boss hits half health or phase transitions, I could only add new spells and weapons after beating a Shotbearer boss. At the start of the run, I am allowed to use the basic toolkit, which is the Kestis, Flamesling, and a Sacred Seal. And, finally, I could not use any summons. So with a quick intro out of the way,
let's get to it.
My burning is an eternal flame. I am Shaolin.
So we start the run out by making this beautiful piece of work. We grab Torrent, the Turtle Talisman, the Physic Flask, both halves of the Dectus Medallion, Radagon's Sword Seal, and a couple thousand runes off of the Knight's Cavalry. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while. We then purchase our pants from this merchant in Caelid, visit Mount Gelmir to grab another talisman and the Sorcerer's Manchets to complete the look. After that, we travel to the Round Table, where we purchase the Flamesling from Breva Corrin, and sell all of the runes that we amassed over the course of our 2-hour prep time, and after that we chuck some fireballs at Margit, which was awfully close, but I still managed to beat this guy on my first attempt, and that's what counts at the end of the day. To complete the basic toolkit, I needed the Kestis Fist weapons, which are sold by Gustok, but I didn't want to waste too much time on him, so I just got his bell bearing and bought the Kestis off of the Twin Maiden Husks at the Round Table, and to improve my main source of damage, I picked up the 2 available Smithing Stone bell bearings, and I also needed to get the proper scaling affinity, and for that, I would need to grab the Iron Wet Blade and get the most fitting Ash of War.
Round 1, fight!
With almost 3 hours of prep time done and dealt with, it was time for the first Shroudbearer boss, Godric. Almost immediately upon initiating the boss fight, I noticed some small quirks about the martial arts mod, one of them being the relatively small hitbox of the fist attacks and the overly complicated jumping heavy attack. While the former is manageable, the latter was in most cases just obnoxious. The animation is real weird for starters. From what I gather, it's supposed to be 3 consecutive hits on the full cycle of this animation, but in most cases all I could get out of it was just a single hit. Maybe I installed the mod incorrectly, but anyway.
Round 2, fight!
You won't be remembered.
I am the Lord.
We were able to beat up Godric, moved on to Renala, and after beating both of the Shroudbearers, we acquired a few new tools to play around with. With that done, I picked up a few tiers for my Physic Flask, spent more time than I'd like to admit trying to defeat the Tree Sentinel Guardian of Capital, but once there, I got the Ritual Shield Talisman for a bit more protection, and got the set of talismans that boost the damage of my incantations. I then defeated the Golden Shade of Godfrey, but before progressing to Morgoth, I first wanted to get a few more levels, and I knew just the right boss that drops a whole lot of runes.
Round 1, fight!
By the Elder Gods, you will fall.
Fight.
With Radahn defeated, we went on quite the journey to get the Erdtree seal. Now that I've had pretty much every single spell and tool I could get my hands on, it was time to fight Morgoth and progress to the mountaintops.
Round 1. Fight.
Once I found the Giant's Prayer Book, I gave it to Muriel in the Church of Vows and got the Giant's Flame take the incantation, which would be a direct upgrade to the Flame Slaying. I then got the Third Smithing Stone Bell Bearing and lost my life to the Fire Giant a lot of times. Seriously, I lost count at the amount of attempts that I've had of this guy, mainly because of his weapons aren't exactly the best thing to bring into this fight, and the incantations that I had access to weren't exactly of use, but with enough patience, this bad boy finally went down.
Fatality. Liu Kang wins.
After that, I got the damage negation physic tier, which would be pretty helpful as my damage negation was pretty miserable. I also collected both halves of the secret medallion, and let me tell you something. Command Denial was the most obnoxious part of this run. It's been quite a long time since I actually hated on this guy. At this point in the run, the build was mainly meant for 1v1s, and this fight really took me out of that comfort zone, making me think on my feet way more. But with Niall defeated, I now had access to both endgame areas, and at that point, I was mentally prepared for the Gods Can Duo fight, in which I would utilize the exact same strat that I always used, the sleep pots. I don't like this boss fight, and I didn't want to spend 10 hours of my life on it, so I just made both of them very EP and disposed of them, which was very nice. Before moving on to Malekith though, I got 2 more talismans, the Godfrey's Icon and the Dragon Crest Great Shield talismans.
Round 1. Fight. Finish him. Brutality. Liu Kang wins.
Alright, at that point I wanted to defeat Rykard, and I initially was planning on using the Serpent Hunter for that, but I wanted to try to do it with this build, and for that I got the Black Wood Blade for the bleed affinity, and spent a couple of hours beating the snake. That sounded weird. Anyways, the hitbox on Kestis Fists is really small, and getting a hit on Rykard was more difficult than you can imagine. The God Devouring Serpent phase in that regard was a bit more forgiving, but during the Rykard phase, the only way I could deal damage to him is if I hit the left leg. His body just has way too stupid of a hitbox. Oh, and I also had to break the rules of the run a little bit, healing as soon as I was low on health, as I just could not beat this guy with access to only 2 healing flasks, so yeah.
Round 1. Fight.
With the newly acquired tool at my disposal, I completely obliterated Gideon, poor guy didn't stand a chance, and moving on from that, it was time for Godfrey, who once again was a blast to fight.
Round 1. Fight. Fatality. Liu Kang wins. Flawless victory.
After Godfrey, I was pretty much at the end of the game, but before attempting Radagon and Elden Beast, I wanted to flesh this build out a bit more, so that it would represent Liu Kang from the end of MK11 by acquiring a few more tools. And the two bosses I had to go through were, of course, Malenia, who I was able to defeat with just pure and unbridled skill, and the second one was, of course, Moog. Both super late game bosses, considered to be the toughest in the game, and both were felled by the Chosen One.
Who am I to be a god? I am Lord Liu Kang, god of thunder and fire.
Round 1. Fight! Prepare to die! Is that your best? Riyah! You suck!
You need a rest?
Don't make me laugh! You are pathetic! You are nothing! You will die, mortal! Nafuda!
You're about to be a fallen god.
Orarigada! It's official! You suck! Round 2. Fight!
This is Mortal Kombat.